In 1859, a broke, forgotten man walked into a San Francisco newspaper office and handed the editor a letter. It declared him Emperor of the United States. No army, no coup, no election, just a piece of paper and the nerve to sign it. And here's the part that should be impossible. The city didn't laugh him out of town. It bowed, restaurants fed him for free, theaters saved him a seat, the police saluted him in the street. For 21 years, San Francisco had an emperor, and it went along with the whole thing. This is the true story of Joshua Norton and how an entire American city agreed to a fantasy because the alternative, apparently, was less interesting. Before he was an emperor, Joshua Norton was just another man chasing the gold rush. He arrived in San Francisco in 1849 with about $40,000, a small fortune at the time, and a sharp instinct for real estate. Within a few years, he'd built that into roughly $250,000. Then, in 1852, he made one bet too many. China had banned rice exports, and prices in San Francisco spiked overnight. Norton saw an opening and bought an entire shipload of Peruvian rice at a premium, planning to corner the market. Then more ships arrived, loaded with the same rice. Prices collapsed. Norton sued to get out of the deal, dragged the case through the courts for years, and in 1855, the California Supreme Court ruled against him. By 1856, he was bankrupt, and for the first time, gone from public life entirely. For 3 years, nobody heard from him. Then, on September 17, 1859, Norton walked back into the spotlight in the strangest way imaginable. He hand-delivered a proclamation to the San Francisco Daily Evening Bulletin declaring himself, quote, Emperor of these United States. The editor printed it, likely as a joke, expecting readers to laugh and move on. They didn't move on. Norton kept issuing decrees. He dissolved Congress. He abolished the Democratic and Republican parties outright. He later added a second title, Protector of Mexico, then quietly dropped it, reasoning that Mexico was too unstable a nation to protect. None of it was official, none of it was legal, and somehow none of that mattered. What happened next is the part that still baffles historians. San Francisco didn't just tolerate Norton, it absorbed him into daily life. Local theaters reserved him a seat on opening night. Restaurants let him eat for free and hung signs reading, by appointment to his emperor, Joshua Norton I. He printed his own currency in denominations from 50 cents to $10, and businesses actually accepted it. When his imperial uniform wore thin, the city's board of supervisors bought him a new one, and he responded with a formal note of thanks. In 1867, a rookie police officer arrested him for vagrancy and tried to have him committed. The public backlash was immediate and furious. The police chief released him, apologized personally, and from that day forward, every officer in the city saluted Norton when he passed. He'd been arrested once, and it made him more untouchable than before. Norton wasn't just a beloved eccentric. Some of his decrees turned out to be strangely ahead of their time. He issued a proclamation ordering a suspension bridge built connecting Oakland to San Francisco by way of Goat Island, decades before engineers broke ground on what would become the Bay Bridge, running almost that exact route. He also called for a tunnel beneath the bay, long before anyone had drawn plans for what eventually became the Trans-Bay Tube. And he proposed something resembling a League of Nations for global peace, roughly 50 years before the actual League of Nations existed. Then there's the detail that historians still bring up first. When the census taker came through in 1870, Norton's landlord told him exactly what to write. Under occupation, the official United States government record lists one word, Emperor. But the moment that reveals who Norton actually was happened in 1878, at the height of San Francisco's anti-Chinese hysteria. A political agitator named Denis Kearney was holding rallies that regularly turned violent, rallies that had already fueled deadly riots against the city's Chinese community. At one of these gatherings, Norton climbed onto a wooden box near the speaker's platform. Kearney noticed him and mockingly asked the emperor to take a seat. Norton ignored him. He closed his eyes and in front of a crowd primed for violence, began reciting the Lord's Prayer out loud. The jeering stopped. Some in the crowd started reciting it with him. When he finished, he spoke briefly about brotherly love, said that they were all God's children, and asked the crowd to disperse. According to newspaper accounts from the time, it did, quietly, without incident. Around this same period, Mark Twain was working just blocks from where Norton lived, and would later base the character of the king in the adventures of Huckleberry Finn directly on him. On the evening of January 8, 1880, Norton collapsed on a street corner on his way to a public debate. He died before help could reach him. The next morning, the San Francisco Chronicle ran the headline, in French, "The King is Dead." More than 10,000 people in a city of well under 200,000 filed past his coffin to pay their respects. A man with no fortune, no crown, and no legal claim to anything was given a send-off fit for royalty. Joshua Norton never ruled a single acre of land. But for 21 years, he ruled a city's imagination, and in doing so, left behind decrees about bridges, tunnels, and human decency that turned out to be more far-sighted than most of the actual governments around him. San Francisco never really had an emperor. It just decided, for 2 decades, to believe it did. And honestly, looking at what he stood for when it mattered most, maybe that wasn't such a bad deal.